I know there was a question asked about.
If the dungeon master is basically benevolent for their players, and should they assume that?
That wasn't the question the way you asked it earlier. I think it was something like, are we capricious, or something along that line?
To a certain degree, are we at the whims of the dungeon master as to the direction of the game?
Who did that come from? Well, Kathleen, yeah, you have, I think, that concept running anyway, that that nature is capricious and so forth, and I think that you would then easily translate that into dungeon masters being capricious as well. Capriciousness has nothing to do with it. Actually, we have no control over what happens. You do.
This is what controls us.
We have to act within lawful limits to what the dice tell us to do.
We may push it. Like if we ask a question.
Well, but there's a list. We have a list of things we do and don't do as DMs. We actually totally conform to those modes of behavior and modes of responses. Just because it looks like we're making it up doesn't mean we're making it up. We actually have, over the past 35 years, developed a modality of what is lawful within the range of dungeon mastering. And so when you roll a 6, we roll a 6, or if you roll a 6, or if we roll one for you, that 6 determines what our answer is. It's not we who decide what that answer is.
No, if
you roll a 1,
six-sided dice, ones are usually good because six-sided dice are for things like damage. How much damage
right. How much
get?
damage? Okay, so 12 make a 20-sided. So you got a 20-sided
20 is the one.
die.
That's you don't want a 1. Almost never do you want a 1 on a 20.
And there is a 1 right there. I just rolled a 1. So when I rolled the 1, that would be a very, very unportentous thing. It would be bad portent. It would be very, very unlucky. If I roll a 20, it's very lucky. And the news is good. If you would roll a 10 or an 11, the news is moderate.
So we'll tweak things a little. Like if we roll a 1 and that means that the whole party is incinerated, we might ignore that roll. You know, just because
it's absurd.
It's so devastating. We can't. I mean, all right, it's over. Which is in fact what happened yesterday. You all lost 3 hit points. That was the mitigated result. Actually,
you would have
when
died.
the lightning struck, you all died. That's what the dice said. So we cheated a little bit. We had you not die.
We kept you alive. That's capricious in another way, in the sense that we decided you back into existence. Because otherwise, you know, it's like, well, I'm sorry, your level 78 character that you've been building for 11 and a half years has died.
There were 3 questions.
What's the second one?
Oh, is the dungeon master innately benevolent for our purposes, or is that an erroneous assumption?
Innately beneficent and benevolent. Innately, yes, because the dungeon master will tend to save the entire party when necessary, and will tend to make the damage less. Typically, in other words, if you make a complete blunder, an utter absolute blunder, the dungeon master will probably save you.
But actually, in terms of the characters and the game itself, we're pretty much neutral.
I would say neutral.
Or maleficent, or, I mean, it runs the gamut. Toward you as players, you could say beneficent.
We're helpful, yeah. We want to be helpful.
There was a situation the other day in which somebody in D2 found themselves with like 1 point. This is a hardcore game, and they had no life at all. And I kept drinking the well dry so that they stayed with almost no life. I did that on purpose, and I told them so, because they had finally found themselves in an incredible learning situation, and I didn't want them to lose that. So I extended that learning situation, which was good for the player, bad for the character, but it was a great learning situation, and they got an opportunity to see something if they paid attention in that moment.
No guarantee that they would.
Yeah, no guarantee that they did. So that's why sometimes it looks like the DM might be doing something that is not very beneficent to the party. Well, that's because we, in particular, aren't really concerned about the characters so much. We're more providing a circumstance for you as players to accomplish something else of a different order entirely.
Here's an example of I don't know if Kathleen ever saw Norton Street, but if she ever watched Norton Street, there's a question in there which is there's a statement in there which is very, very profound. Help me. And the question comes back, help you what? In other words, define help. And so that's where we go, which is we're defining help all the way along the line. So what's the third question?